A simple night in San Francisco. Steph Curry, NBA star, dines at a luxury restaurant when he observes a humble woman asking only for the leftovers that would be discarded. Something in the dignity of that stranger makes him follow an impulse that will forever change multiple lives. What Steph discovers when following her is a hidden reality that breaks his heart and may inspire a transformation much deeper than any victory on the courts. Don't miss any moment of this emotional journey. Watch until the end and share in the comments which part of the world you're following this story from. I love reading each of your comments. The Alexander's Steakhouse in San Francisco reflected the golden glow of chandeliers on its silver cutlery. It was a Thursday night, and Steph Curry was savoring a well-deserved dinner after leading the Warriors to victory against the Portland Trail Blazers. The sweat from the game had already been replaced by a discreet, impeccably cut suit as he enjoyed a perfectly grilled Wagyu. The table in the corner offered the privacy he so valued. Polite smiles to fans who eventually recognized him, but nothing that would interrupt his rare moment of tranquility. The elegant conversations around mixed with the clinking of wine glasses, creating that exclusive atmosphere that differentiates establishments frequented by San Francisco's elite. Around 10:30, between the main course and dessert, the restaurant door opened. A gust of cold October air brought in a woman who immediately seemed out of place. She wore simple but clean clothes, faded jeans, a brown coat worn at the cuffs, and white sneakers that had known better days. Her black hair was tied in a simple bun, and her brown eyes revealed a mixture of determination and discomfort. The restaurant maître approached quickly, her evaluative gaze barely disguising the obvious conclusion. That woman did not belong there. "May I help you?" she asked with cold politeness. "Excuse the inconvenience," the woman replied in a low but clear voice. "I would like to speak with the manager, if possible." Steph didn't intend to pay attention to the conversation, but something in the woman's dignity captured his interest. The manager, a middle-aged man with impeccable posture, arrived in seconds. His body language communicated haste to resolve any situation that could disturb the environment. "Good evening," said the woman. "My name is Melissa. I work as a caregiver in the neighborhood and wanted to know if at the end of the night you would have leftover food that would normally be discarded." Her voice didn't tremble, nor did it show shame, just a pragmatic necessity. The manager let out an almost inaudible sigh. "Ma'am, this is a high-end establishment. We suggest you look for a food bank if you need assistance." Melissa nodded. "I understand. Thank you for your time." Without protest or insistence, she turned and walked out, the same silent dignity in each step. Steph observed the entire scene, his fork paused in mid-air. Something about that woman, perhaps the combination of humility and strength, touched something deep within him. Impulsively, he called the waiter, paid the bill, and in a gesture that surprised even himself, decided to follow her. The typical San Francisco fog had descended, wrapping the streets in its cold, damp embrace as Steph maintained a discreet distance. The elegant streets of the financial district gradually gave way to more worn blocks, where the golden glow of the city gave way to its forgotten shadows. Steph had never done anything like this before. Following a stranger through the streets of San Francisco went against everything his parents had taught him about respect and privacy. Still, he continued walking, keeping Melissa always in his field of vision as she crossed the city. The urban landscape transformed with each block. The mirrored buildings and designer stores were replaced by Latin grocery, stores, coin laundries, and small family restaurants with their multicolored signs. The Mission District emerged around him, vibrant, authentic, but also marked by the scars of gentrification and inequality. After 20 minutes of walking, Melissa stopped in front of a 3-story building on Folsom Street. The faded green paint was peeling in some spots, but the entrance was impeccably clean. Steph watched as she took out a bunch of keys from her pocket and climbed the external staircase to the second floor. Moved by a curiosity that he himself didn't fully understand, he approached the building. A small tree offered partial cover, allowing him to observe without being noticed. The lights turned on in apartment 2B, and through the partially open window, Steph witnessed a scene that would make his heart tighten. "Mom!" 2 childish voices exclaimed in unison. A boy of approximately 10 years and a smaller girl, perhaps 6 or 7, ran to hug Melissa. "Did you get anything, Mom?" asked the boy, hope evident in his voice. A brief hesitation. "We weren't lucky today, Miguel," answered Melissa, forcing a smile while caressing her son's hair. "But tomorrow, we'll try again." On the other side of the small living room, an elderly lady rested in a recliner. The colorful scarf that covered her hairless head couldn't disguise the extreme paleness and thinness, unmistakable signs of someone undergoing chemotherapy. "I saved some of the lunch soup for you," said the lady, with a weak voice, trying unsuccessfully to get up. "Don't strain yourself, Mom," Melissa quickly approached. "I'll heat it up for the children." Steph observed the tiny apartment, but organized with evident care. A dining table with 4 chairs occupied one corner of the room. On the walls, photographs silently told a different story. Melissa wearing a nurse's uniform, her healthy mother holding the younger children, moments of a life that seemed to have been left behind. "Look, Mom." Miguel ran to his school backpack, taking out a test. "I got an A+ in math." "I'm so proud, my little genius." Melissa hugged him, genuinely happy despite the evident tiredness in her eyes. Sophia began to cough violently, a harsh and worrying sound. Without hesitation, Melissa took an inhaler from her bag and helped the girl use it. Next to the small television, a pile of envelopes caught Steph's attention. Medical bills with large red stamps of "payment denied" and "final notice" that told the story. Melissa was trying to hide from her children. Moving away from the window, Steph felt something strange inside his chest. The contrast between the luxury of the restaurant where he had dined shortly before and the dignity of that family struggling to survive was overwhelming. He took out his phone and dialed a familiar number. "Dave, it's me," he said when his personal assistant answered. "I need your help for something important tomorrow." "Very important." The black Range Rover discreetly parked, 3 blocks from the small green building. Steph Curry adjusted his simple cap and sunglasses, not to look like an incognito star, but to avoid drawing attention in that neighborhood where his presence would certainly cause a commotion. He checked his watch. 7:45 in the morning. Dave had done an efficient job overnight. Melissa Torres, 32 years old, registered nurse, widow, 2 children. Carmen Torres, her mother, diagnosed with stage 3 Hodgkin's lymphoma 18 months ago. The clinical and financial details were heartbreaking for someone like Steph, who could spend on one meal what that family needed to survive an entire month. At 8:10, Melissa left the building. She wore a navy blue pencil skirt and a simple white blouse, professional clothes that signaled a job interview. Steph took a deep breath, got out of the car and walked toward her. "Melissa," he called softly when he was a few steps away. She turned, startled. Recognition was instantaneous, followed by confusion. "Steph Curry? How do you know my name?" Suspicion replaced surprise in her gaze. "I saw you last night, at the restaurant," he admitted. "And I followed you to your home. Melissa took a step back, instinctively protective. You followed me? Why? I know how this sounds. Steph raised his hands in a pacifying gesture. It was invasive and inappropriate. But something about you, in your dignity when you just asked for leftovers, I couldn't ignore it. I'm late for an interview, she responded coldly. 15 minutes. That's all I ask, Steph insisted, pointing to a small coffee shop on the corner. Morning brew, public place. If after that you want me to disappear, you'll never see me again. The Morning Brew was the opposite of Alexander's Steakhouse. Simple formica tables, mismatched chairs, but surprisingly good coffee and fresh donuts. Steph ordered 2 coffees, while Melissa observed him with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Why do you care? She finally asked, holding the hot mug with both hands. I want to hear your story, Steph responded sincerely. The real one. With initial hesitation that gradually gave way to a need to unburden herself, Melissa told everything. How she had worked as a nurse at UCSF Medical Center for almost a decade. How her mother's diagnosis forced her to reduce her working hours until she needed to completely abandon her job to become a full-time caregiver. And the health. Insurance? It covered the first 6 months. Then they started denying the experimental treatments. Not provably effective was the term they used, she explained bitterly. As if we had a choice. Steph heard about Sophia and her severe asthma, about Miguel and his brilliant mind wasted in a public school without programs for gifted children, about the husband who had died in an accident 3 years ago. The life insurance kept us for a while, continued Melissa. Then came the medical debts, the loans, the credit cards. Eventually, I sold the car, then my wedding jewelry. And now you ask for leftovers at restaurants, Steph completed softly. Melissa's eyes welled up, but she quickly wiped them. I can't afford to feel sorry for myself. I have 2 children and my mother depending on me. Steph leaned forward. What do you really need, Melissa? Not just now, but to rebuild your life? She looked at him directly, without hesitation. I don't want charity. I need to go back to working as a nurse, with flexibility to care for my family. I need proper treatment for my mother and my daughter. And I want Miguel to be intellectually challenged before he loses interest in his studies. Why would you care so much? She finally asked, letting emotion overflow in her voice. Because it could easily be me in your place, Steph answered honestly. And because making 3-point baskets is less important than what we do for others when nobody is watching. 3 months later, a colorful package rested on the passenger seat as Steph parked in front of a modern building on Valencia Street. Unlike the old building with faded paint, this one had a well-maintained facade and a small community garden where some children played under the gentle January sun. With the familiarity of someone who had made the journey several times, he went up to apartment 305. Before even knocking, he could hear the festive buzz from the other side of the door. Children's laughter, animated conversations, and soft music. Steph! Miguel opened the door, his face lighting up instantly. There was no longer the reverential astonishment of the first visits. Now, it was just genuine joy at seeing someone who had become an important part of his life. Sophia will flip when she sees what you brought. The new apartment, although still modest by San Francisco standards, was spacious and airy. Natural light flooded the living room through large windows, illuminating the same family. Photographs that Steph had seen months before, now accompanied by new memories. Sophia in the hospital showing a thumbs up after a new asthma treatment, Miguel holding a Math Olympiad trophy, and a recent one with the whole family and Steph himself at the Warriors Community Foundation Christmas party. Melissa emerged from the kitchen wearing her light blue uniform from the Bay Area Community Health Center, where she now worked 4 days a week. "You made it," she smiled, drying her hands on her apron. "Sophia is convinced that you forgot her birthday." "As if I could forget my #1 fan," joked Steph, revealing the carefully wrapped present. Carmen, Melissa's mother, was sitting comfortably on the sofa, still thin, but with a healthy glow in her eyes and fine gray hair beginning to appear again on her scalp. The experimental treatment she now received through the medical assistance program that Steph had helped create was showing promising results. "How are the new participants in the program?" asked Steph while helping to set the table for the small celebration. "3 more nurses were accepted this week," responded Melissa with evident satisfaction. One of them was living in her car with her son after her husband became disabled in a work accident. What had begun as a personal initiative had rapidly expanded. The Health Care Heroes program now had the support of several NBA players, private hospitals, and technology companies in San Francisco. It wasn't just financial assistance. It was a complete network that offered flexible jobs for health professionals facing personal crises, access to specialized treatments, and educational opportunities for their children. Sophia burst into the room, wearing a pink tutu and a princess crown. Her breathing, previously hindered by severe asthma, now flowed naturally thanks to the specialized treatment she received. "Steph!" she shouted, running to hug him. After blowing out the candles on the cake decorated with ballerinas, the girl looked at him with surprising seriousness for her 7 years. "Thank you for making Mommy smile again." Later, observing the happy, reunited family, Steph reflected on how a simple impulse to follow a woman asking for leftovers had transformed into something much larger. Melissa was no longer just a recipient of help. She had become a bridge between the program and other families in similar situations, multiplying the initial impact in ways that not even he could have imagined. "Some victories don't happen on the courts," thought Steph, realizing that the true value of his fame and fortune was in the difference he could make when he chose to see beyond appearances, recognizing the dignity and potential in each human being, regardless of their momentary situation.